Hi, my name is John Bagley, and if you've been following our fundraising TV so far, you will know that this is another episode of our Building Blocks in Fundraising, the Fundraising Fundamentals. This is number 4, and we're going to look today at change, embracing change. Change happens in a number of ways. Change is rapidly moving through our society now. Technological change, regulatory change, lots of other changes. And as Andy Grove, the late CEO of Intel, said, an organisation to survive must innovate faster, or at least as fast as, the rate of change in their external environment. If you don't keep up, you're going to be a dead duck. You must look and see how it affects your world, because your donors are living in a reality which is changing. And if their reality is changing, yours needs to do that too. One of my favourite science fiction writers is William Gibson. And William Gibson said that the future is already with us. It's just not evenly distributed. I've always loved that quote. But this also links in with the first quote in that change is happening, but the answers and the solutions are out there. Looking at what other organisations do. If you don't want to be a change leader, if you don't want to be the first kid in the block who is doing this, that or the other, then maybe you could be the second one. And maybe you can actually correct some of the mistakes that are made by the people who are out there making immediate change. So the kind of changes that I'm talking about are currently changes in methods of payment. And of course, that's very important for fundraisers. We have contactless giving. This makes it very, very easy for anybody to give at any time. It makes it easy for events, it makes it easy for auctions, it makes it easy for quite a variety of things that are going on. And this will continue. Where we're doing contactless is only the beginning. For example, there's a lot of recognition software now, facial recognition software, recognition of my car when I go and park. Now the car number plate is red. And I put my money in from my credit card, and when I leave the car park it reads the registration again. Similarly, we have facial recognition. Then perhaps when people go to events, we'll be able to say, welcome back. Maybe when our members or our supporters, who we know from before, pass through certain areas of our organisation, we will know that they've been there before and be able to personalise our response to them. Who knows? That's just something for the future. So the other thing that's happening at the moment is regulatory change. In fundraising, the codes of practice are changing, but also the fundraising regulator is there making sure now that the fundraiser are actually keeping to those codes of practice. And somewhere behind them is the Information Commissioner's Office looking very carefully at how we hold personal data. I'm amazed when I come across charities who really haven't paid much attention to this, as if it doesn't apply to them. It applies very much to us, and we should be very ready now to deal differently with the data that we hold on our members and our supporters. And not just in the main central data bank, but across the organisation. So there should not now be those little pockets and silos of information held on people. This really all comes part of the same system. So change happens. Change involves a lot of the organisation. Huge amount of change now involves fundraising. And what we're seeing is that organisations are responding to this. We've noticed that change around the world is happening. Because we're an international company, we see this. We see very similar trends and practices taking place. So way before we had the kind of regulation we have here, we saw regulation changing in Canada. That made a huge difference to how Canadians can operate their fundraising. And you see it happening here. It's now happening across Europe with GDPR, making sure that personal data is well handled, and this will work its way into other countries steadily. The other part of that change is that when one thing changes and we go racing into new ideas, new ways of doing things, other fundraising that we used to do, our traditional fundraising, that may well not be working so well. The response to that may steadily be less, or people may just stop doing it. They may stop attending that kind of event, for example, if the reality out there is different, if they've become old-fashioned and outmoded because of some change. So as well as rushing into the new changes, we also need to sit in our fundraising department and look at the other things that we're doing. Because change is happening more rapidly now, we need to reassess more rapidly what we're doing. We need to make sure that the existing fundraising we do is not just declining. For example, I was in an organisation that used to run an annual ball. It did a lot of money. A lot of its profits came from that annual ball. But the person who ran the annual ball moved on, did something else, and for a couple of years it tottered on its own. But in the end, that line was crossed where it ceased to make profit, it started to make a loss. But because everybody loved it, everybody loved attending and going and thought it was wonderful for lots of other reasons, they kept it going far too long. And really that should have been just scrapped. It's not to say that other organisations cannot do annual balls. This organisation couldn't. It didn't work for them. They should have stopped it. And that may well be applying where you see response rates falling. At what point do you actually stop doing what you're doing? For example, direct mail has been falling as response rates for quite a long time. May well be there is still a lot of play in that market. I'm sure it's not completely dead, but it needs careful assessing, it needs checking, just to make sure that you're not actually running into a difficult situation. Okay, so we've looked this time at change. We've looked at the change in technology, the change in regulation, and what we've seen as an organisation, that's the International Fundraising Consultancy, our organisation. And if you want to look into us further, we're at groupifc.com, so you can look that up. We've seen that if you don't keep up with those changes, then your income begins to fall. So, thank you very much for listening. Good luck with your changes, and I hope to see you here again on Fundraising TV. Thank you.